Okay, so let's talk about something that's a huge part of so many people's lives, in vitro fertilization, or IVF. It is this incredible journey of hope, right? But it's also wrapped up in so much uncertainty. Even with all the amazing science we have, the final outcome can still feel like a total mystery.
But what if a really big piece of that puzzle has been hiding where we'd never think to look? What if it's been there all along, in a world that's way too small for us to see with the naked eye? Well, today we're going to dive into a study that suggests the answer might just be microscopic. You see, for years, scientists have been making IVF better and better. We've made these incredible leaps forward, and yet, that big question mark is still there. Why does it work for one couple, but not for the next? It's this unpredictability that has forced researchers to start looking for clues in some brand new and kind of unexpected places.
And this, right here, is the heart of the matter. This isn't just some abstract scientific question. It's deeply, deeply personal for millions of people. And now, researchers are starting to think that maybe the answer isn't just about the quality of the egg or the sperm, but about the entire environment they come from.
Which brings us to the main character in our little scientific mystery today, the microbiome. Just think about it. It's this huge, bustling city of trillions of microorganisms living on and inside every single one of us. We're all walking around with this entire hidden ecosystem inside of us every day.
Seriously, you can almost think of it as a hidden organ. And these microbes, they are not just hanging out for a free ride. No way. They play a super critical role in everything from our digestion to our immune system, and, as we're about to find out, maybe even in our ability to have a baby.
Now, this is where it gets really interesting. The microbiome in the male reproductive tract is actually really different from the female one. The research shows that semen tends to have a much wider variety of different bacteria, kind of like a diverse city. But the vagina, it has a way higher concentration of bacteria, but it's usually dominated by just a few key types. And these differences, well, they turn out to be a really important clue. So, to figure all this out, we're going to look at one specific study. It came out of Nigeria and was published in Frontiers in Cellular and Infection Microbiology. Think of this as our official case file, giving us a super detailed look at the microbiomes of real couples going through IVF.
So here's the setup. The researchers got together with 36 couples. They took samples, both semen and vaginal samples, and then used this really powerful genetic sequencing technique. It's basically like a high-tech roll call to identify every single type of bacteria living in those samples. Pretty cool, right?
And here's the number that started it all. Out of those 36 couples, 12 of them got pregnant. That's a 33% success rate. And this number is everything, because it splits all the participants into two distinct groups, the ones who had a positive outcome and the ones who didn't. And this is the million-dollar question, isn't it? What was different about that 33%? If you compared the microbiomes of the successful group to the unsuccessful group, would you find a pattern? Could they actually pinpoint the microscopic good guys and bad guys in this whole fertility story? Let's take a look at the first set of clues.
All right, so the first major breakthrough clues came from a place that, let's be honest, often gets overlooked in these conversations, the guy's microbiome. Specifically, the bacteria that were found in the semen samples. And what they found was pretty amazing. It turns out, in the couples who ended up with a successful pregnancy, the male partner's semen had a very clear, very distinct bacterial signature. It was almost like they had a microscopic hero on their team. And here is that hero, a bacterium called Lactobacillus jensenii. Just look at the difference on this chart. It's huge. The study found that the men in the successful IVF group had way more of this specific bacteria. Its presence was a really strong predictor of a good outcome, probably because these Lactobacillus species are amazing at keeping things healthy and non-inflammatory.
But you know how these stories go. Where you find heroes, you can usually find some villains too. And sure enough, the study also found that the presence of other types of bacteria was linked to IVF failure. Yeah, specifically bacteria with names like Prevotella and Bacteroides. And as you can see right here, the levels of these guys were much lower in the group that got pregnant. This suggests that their presence might actually create problems for fertility, because these types of bacteria are often linked with inflammation. So the evidence from the male side was starting to look pretty clear.
But hey, this is a story about couples, right? It takes two. So the investigation didn't stop there. The researchers then zoomed in on the female partner's microbiome to see if they could find a similar pattern.
And guess what? They did. We already know that a healthy vaginal microbiome is typically loaded with Lactobacillus species, but this study was able to pinpoint a very specific hero that seemed to be linked with IVF success.
And here it is, Lactobacillus gasseri. Just like we saw with the men, the women in the successful group had a lot more of this beneficial bacterium. And this is so important because these Lactobacillus species are what keep the vaginal environment acidic, they keep the pH low, which is basically a natural defense system against any harmful microbes trying to move in.
Now, on the flip side, just like with the men, higher levels of things like Bacteroides and Prevotella were linked to negative outcomes. But, and this is a really fascinating little twist in the research, in this particular study, even some other types of Lactobacillus, like L. iners and L. crispatus, were actually less common in the successful group. It just goes to show you how complex this whole ecosystem is. It's not just about good versus bad bacteria. It's about having the perfect balance of all the right players.
So we've looked at all the clues. We've seen the heroes and the villains on both sides. What's the final verdict? What does all of this mean for the future of helping people get pregnant?
The main takeaway from the study couldn't be clearer. This isn't just about the man's health, and it isn't just about the woman's health. It's about the couple. The research strongly suggests that the combined microbial health of both partners plays a huge role in whether or not IVF is successful.
And that brings us to this really hopeful quote from the researchers themselves. They said their work has opened a window of possibility. What they're suggesting is that we could potentially boost IVF success rates by helping couples optimize their microbiomes before they even start treatment, maybe by replenishing those hero Lactobacillus species we talked about.
Which leaves us with this incredible, thought-provoking question. Could a future key to unlocking fertility really be found in something as simple as a probiotic? One that's tailored not just for one person, but for the couple as a team? This research suggests we might be right on the edge of a tiny, microscopic revolution in how we approach one of the biggest journeys in life.